So here's the thought I want to leave you with. The importance of you being here today and the seeds that the Creator is planting in your hearts today. Grow where you are planted. Grow where you are planted. It is not a cosmic accident that we happen to be on a planet whose atmosphere we can breathe. Everyone, let's real quickly just do a quick group exercise, especially the guys up texting in the gallery. All right? Take a deep breath. Now let it out. And how incredible is it that we are on a planet of all the planets we've discovered in science, we are on the only planet we've found whose atmosphere we can breathe. Amen. So grow where you're planted. Because maybe you started your journey to Oklahoma, maybe you started in Syria, maybe you started in Jordan, maybe you started in many paths around the world, but guess what? You started on this ball of dirt that is hurtling through space, and you have a purpose. And it is no accident that you, of all the crossroads that you may have traversed, that you've landed here at this point in time today. You are here for a purpose, and there's a reason for your existence. I have notes. So, it's important that you are involved, that you're here. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but what I need for you to do is preach to your mom who wasn't able to be here today. Preach to your dad who wasn't able to be here today. Your fellow mosque goers this coming Friday at Masjid. Right? I've been there. And tell them you have a purpose. Oklahoma is a better place because you're here. Our economy grows because you're here. And we, in this body of legislative deliberation, we, day by day, with our efforts of aligning policy with justice, we make Oklahoma a better place for generations to come. That's why you're here. Mashallah. I have a 7-year-old at the house. How old are you? 10. Precious. Thank you, whoever brought her today. Thank you. Let's give a round of applause for the children who are in this chamber. That's going to change this world. So, you have exercised right to assemble, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and guess what? You couldn't be more American than you are right now. Guess what? There are Americans right now out on the sidewalk who are exercising their freedoms. And they couldn't be more American right now, nor could they be more disappointing to me personally. And that's why we're at the table, is because we believe love is the only antidote to hate. And it's hard to hate the people you know. And you have to stand up for the people you love, right? For every Muslim that is here right now, there are many others who are working, creating jobs, creating economic wealth, who couldn't be here. You are their voice, and you are standing in your place. And in a few hours, there will be senators sitting in these same places. By the way, Sergeant Arms said be very important not to touch any of the papers for the senator, so I promised to tell them that. You're welcome. And they represent the people who are not here. But in their one voice, they get to speak out for the masses who are back home, who are counting on them to stand up for them, to look out for them, and not to be compromised in their dedication to making Oklahoma a better place. And that's what you're doing now. Now, I was appointed to the Trump administration. I advise the Community Development Financial Institution Fund Director on how to enact policy that helps me help the poor all over the United States, aligning capital, access to cash, with justice, through the community development financial institution that I run on behalf of the Potawatomi Nation. That's what I do. Remember, grow where you're planted. I didn't pursue the appointment found me. And sometimes you will be asked to create a coalition with people with whom you do not agree. For example, your spouse. Am I right? But when intelligent people with diverse backgrounds and diverse life experiences get together with the common goal of making the world a better place, creating a safer home for our children, my wife doesn't agree with everything I say. She's way too smart for that. You can laugh. Right? But together, and there's a scripture I love in the Bible that says, iron sharpens iron. As we rub against each other, we get sharper, and we become a better tool in the hands of the Creator. Right? We become better people. Here, we have diverse opinions that we begin to shape into the laws that we have to live under. And as they bring experience from the rural communities and the city communities, and they realize that making one law that says you have to walk behind your pet and pick up its deposits, right? That's a very good law for downtown Oklahoma City, but when you write it broadly enough that it requires farmers in Potawatomi County, where I'm from, because it says your pet, and how do you define that, right? And now suddenly we have to walk behind our bovine, that's cows, and use a shovel to put in a bag and deposit in the nearest trash can because it made sense in a dog walking park in Oklahoma City. Suddenly we have conflict. Does that mean the Oklahoma City legislators are bad? No. Does it mean that the farmers in Potawatomi County are ridiculous and they don't care about your cleanliness of your shoes? No. It means they need to sit together and come up with the idea that best suits all communities so Oklahoma becomes a better place, right? And that's what we do in our lives, that's what we do in our synagogues, that's what we do in our mosques, that's what we do in our churches, trying to align ourselves with the justice that says treat people with equality and kindness that you would expect to be treated, right? And that's why we're here. So grow where you're planted. Show up like you did today, because honestly, the world is run by people who show up. If you don't show up, you can't vote. If you don't vote, guess what? The person elected doesn't represent your views unless your views are, I don't like to show up. At which point, they won't show up and vote, and they will have reflected your values. Don't be that person, right? Align yourself, your motivation, with justice. Honoring your Creator who put you on a planet whose atmosphere you can breathe. And then extend the kindness that was extended by the Creator to those that are around you. And you align yourself with justice. Don't treat others how you wouldn't want to be treated. So, hearkening back to my Trump appointment, remember that parties morph and change as individuals, personalities, and circumstances evolve to reflect what's coming. But what we know is that human nature is a constant in the history of mankind. That's why the Quran, the Holy Quran, is relevant. That's why the Bible is relevant. That's why many stories that we've read are relevant, because even though technology has changed, human nature remains the same. We have to respect to get respect. Being respectful means you're full of respect. It has nothing to do with the person you're respecting, right? So remember this, Abraham Lincoln, who is known for the Emancipation Proclamation, was the first Republican. Parties change over time. Principles and alliance with justice is the only thing that matters. I'm a Cherokee Indian. I'm also Irish. I look mostly Irish. My mom is Cherokee. And Andrew Jackson was the first Democrat. To this day, United Kituah Band Cherokees in Tahlequah, Oklahoma refused to register Democratic because of Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was the ushering in of the Holocaust for Cherokee people. We lost a quarter of all Cherokees living because of Andrew Jackson. But parties change over time. And what he did was genocided and unforgivable. But parties change with time. You have to engage. And this is what we've learned with the Cherokee Nation. You didn't know you were going to get some Native American history, did you? But I'm talking about flourish, grow where you're planted, and engage, right? Very quickly, the Cherokee Nation, my people, were in North Carolina. We're bumping into settlers. Settlers killed Cherokees, Cherokees killed settlers. Finally, they came to an agreement with the United States. If they would move out into the forest in Georgia, we would stop killing each other. Good goal. So they moved out into Georgia, and a Cherokee man discovered gold, which was fine. Unfortunately for him, he told people. And I like to say the first Indian givers was Georgia and the Georgia government, because they said, when we let you move out into the empty forest in Georgia, we didn't know there was gold and we want it back. And guess what? There were people of faith, Christians, who said, this position of taking back after you've given your word and you've made a commitment back from the Indians is unjust. We denounce this. But the Cherokee people had no rights because the Cherokee people were not American citizens. They were Cherokee citizens, and as such could not sue in the Supreme Court. So the people of justice, the people of the book, the Christian missionaries said, we will stand in your place. We will be your voice. We will fight for you because it's right. And so the Christian missionaries, Worcester versus Georgia is a famous in Indian law. The missionary petitioned on behalf of the Cherokee people. He and a delegation of Cherokee elders went to the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., sued the state of Georgia, and won. And Andrew Jackson said, whose responsibility as the executive branch of the government to execute the law, abdicated his responsibility and declared the following: let the Supreme Court justice now enforce his own ruling. Ushering in, which means I will not enforce it. I will not do that. He violated the Constitution and his oath of office and was unjust, even though we won. By the time John Ross, who was our Cherokee chief at the time, very Indian name, John Ross, by the time he got home to Georgia, there were already people, settlers, living in the home he had built with his own hands. And the Indian Removal Act began, and we were forced into Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plains. It was a Holocaust for us, and we died, 25%. And usually what I do if I'm teaching this in class, I'll have 1 in 4 lay their head down, and then I have to look around and see who died. That's how it happened, right? History matters. So we come to Oklahoma. Now, pause and watch what's going on up in Chicago area, the Potawatomi Indians, who I now work for. They had very lucrative trade routes up in the Great Lakes area. And guess what? Settlers wanted them. People with aggregated power demanding, I want that economic control, and they took it. And so the Potawatomis moved from the Chicago area into Kansas. And during that period, they looked and they saw the Cherokee Indians were getting their land taken away from them. And they said, the missionaries who were American citizens stood up for the Cherokees and sued on behalf of the Cherokees because they have rights. So what if we collectively as a band of the Potawatomis applied for citizenship? Then we could sue for ourselves, and as citizens, the federal government would not dare take away its own citizens' land. So the entire band of Potawatomis applied for citizenship, was awarded citizenship. My fellow Americans, welcome to the United States of America. You are now citizens. And guess what happened next? Federal government took their land. Right? And they saved up all of their money that they could. And the tribe bought what is now Pottawatomie County. But they spent every dime that they had and had to save up for 2 more years before they had enough money to move everybody down into the new land they bought. They said, if we buy the land, then we'll have fee simple right to it, right? And we'll have legal standing. And then the federal government plopped another group of Indians right in the middle of the reservation that they bought and said, y'all get along, you hear? Now, why am I telling you this? It's because I don't love America. I'm a Cherokee with angst and anger. No. Yes. I love America, but I know that if I don't show up, if I don't engage, if I don't get involved, then I create a vacuum where someone who is unjust, someone who will take things that don't belong to them and abuse people that are too small to resist. Because that's the American thing to do. The other thing, taking advantage of people, that's just a human thing. The only way that we can combat evil is if we as a just people stand up for the voiceless, apply for citizenship so we can sue the federal government, not have to depend on another group to do it for us. Register to vote so we can elect people that reflect our values that are aligned with justice and not let someone else do it for us. Grow where you are planted. I'm a Republican. Ronald Reagan was a Republican, but before that he was a Democrat. Who knew that? And you know what he said when he changed from Democrat to Republican? I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. And we have Republicans today who says, I didn't leave the Republican Party. The Republican Party left me. And so here's what's important. This is the takeaway. Align yourself with justice. Align yourself with your Creator, who directs us to take care of the weak, the least, the last, the lost, and be a voice for the voiceless. Stand up for justice. And if your party is misaligned, you have 2 options. Find another party, or stand up and be a voice for justice in your party. This is important. Be engaged. Be involved. Don't let the silence you create by having your mouth closed create a pulpit for someone of injustice to step in. Grow where you are planted. What we learned by studying Native American history and what we learn by studying world history and human nature is if you are not at the table, you are on the menu. If you are not at the table, you are on the menu. Engage, get involved, make a difference, and hold your elected representatives accountable to a standard of justice. Change your party from within or change parties completely, but always make sure that your allegiance is to doing the right thing for the right reason. And what we find here in these buildings, to get anything done, usually requires a coalition of people who are doing the right thing for the right reason, which we can call minorities. There are not very many. And people who are doing the right thing for the wrong reason. So it takes a lot of navigating to figure out how to move the ball forward on the field. There are some people that are in it for the right reason, and some are in it for the wrong reason. But if you don't have a critical mass of agreement, that's how democracy works. You can't move anything forward. Winston Churchill was believed to have said, democracy is the single worst form of government, except for all the others. It's messy, but it works. The system works if you work the system. Be there, be involved, make a difference. We are on a big planet. A lot of roads converge for you to be here. God knew you were going to be here. Now grow, flourish, make a difference, and make a better Oklahoma. I love you guys. Thank you for being here.